And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Dungeon Twister is one of my favorite games. In fact, you can see Dungeon Twister 2, Dungeon Twister Prison here. It is a great game in which players control a group of creatures and warriors and mages, etc., and have them thrown into this twisting dungeon that has the floors come down and turn around underneath and go back up, and you have to get out and fight your way out for the amusement of some evil archmage who is here for the sole purpose of providing us an entertaining board game. A great board game. It's been in my top 100 for many years. And now we have Dungeon Twister, the card game. Now, I'm very leery of this one going in, folks, because, come on, this is a grandiose game. The last one had miniatures. Can a card game live up to that? What is it like, even? Let's take a look and see what I think. The game comes with a tutorial, and you can play all the way up through a full game. It walks you through. You'll use these scenario cards to show you how you'll play a game. For example, this says play with 2 characters, 2 items. You'll play to 2 victory points, and this is what your starting map looks like. That's how many things go in each map. And you can see as time goes by that it gets bigger and bigger. So this is a full game. Let's take a look at a pretty normal game here. It shows that you have 8 characters each. You will have 5 items each, and you'll be playing to 5 victory points, and you'll be playing with a map board that is made up of many different sections there, 10 different sections, and you'll be putting 2 things in each section, 3 in the middle, 2 and 2. So what you'll do then is you'll build your map board, and the map board is made up of different tiles, and you'll shuffle those and face those place down. Players will also pick characters. You can play with the same characters. You can draft characters. I actually prefer that you bring characters secretly. Now, the different characters that you have are going to have different stats. Each guy has a movement ability, that's how many spaces they can move, and an attack value. You'll notice that their movement, attack value, and it's going to range from character to character. It will also use a token here, usually to kind of show their special ability. But you'll notice that there's 4 symbols on the side of the cards. They look like runes. And this is a very critical thing, because what you're going to have here, and this is important, is you're going to be putting characters in rooms. And so when this character here, for example, is next to this room, the fact that this is facing towards the room shows that he's in this section here. If he was like this, I would know that he was in this area here. It's a very, very unique way to show which section of an area the room is in. Now let's take a look at the room. The room is made up of different walls and doorways, and there's different openings, and so rooms will eventually be put next to each other, like these 2 rooms are. And there's also these pit traps in the floor. You can't just walk through those. You can jump from one to the other, and maybe there's another way to get over a pit trap. And sometimes there's an arrow slit. You can see through these, but you can't move through those. Each room also has a gear in the middle, which is where players are going to be able to turn that room. On a player's turn, they will have a card in front of them that keeps track of how many actions they have. Each turn you will get 3 actions, except the first player only gets 2. You will use as many actions as you want. You don't have to use them all, so you can bank more. The card goes all the way up to 7 actions that you can save for a future turn. Those actions will often be revealing a room. So let's say I have a character. Let's say this character is here, and he is next to this room here. You can see he's in here. So he could reveal this room for an action. You could also move. You can move your character. The number of movement points of this character is 3, and he was here. I can move him here for 1. I wouldn't be able to move him any farther because of the pit traps that are in his way. Each team, each player, gets 3 jump cards. For an action, you can use one of these jump cards to jump over a pit token to get from one room to another room. Another thing a player can do on their turn is if they are in the gear section of a room, they can use one action point to rotate either that room 90 degrees in whatever direction it shows you, or they can rotate the matching room. When you put the rooms out randomly, there's always pairs of them. So you can see here the purple and purple and the gray and the gray. So when I'm in this purple room, I can rotate this room, or I can rotate the other room. And that's all part of, that's the twister part of Dungeon Twister. So I'll be moving around. If I happen to be in the same room as somebody else, let's say we're both in the same room here, then I can use an action point to fight that character. When you fight a character, each player is going to take one of their combat cards. Now at the beginning of the game, players are going to get combat cards that at 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You'll play one of these cards face down, and you will add that to your attack value. So let's say this gentleman here adds 1 to his 2, and the other guy, who is very, very desperate, adds 6 with their combat card. And so it's 1 plus 2 is 3, and then the orange player has played a 6, so he wins. Now, when you use a combat card, the combat card is gone for the rest of the game, unless you use the 0 combat card. If you use the 0 combat card, you get that back, so you can keep using that one over and over again. The character who's defeated is wounded. We'll turn them face down, making sure we keep their orientation to show where that wounded character is. On a future turn, that character can be attacked again, and if they are taken out, that character, you get a victory point. So one of the ways, there's 2 ways to get victory points in this game. One of the ways is to take out an opposing character. Now, most of your characters are going to start here on the end zone. Some of them will start in the middle of the labyrinth, but most of them will start in the end zone. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get through this labyrinth, this twister, this dungeon, and if you can do so, and if you can get out on the opponent's side, then you will take your character off the board and you will score a victory point. So 2 ways to score a victory point: by killing your opponents, or by taking a victory, or by escaping from off the other side of the board. Of course, every time you escape, that's one less guy that you have on the board to do things with. Those are the basic actions. There are 25 characters in the game, and each of these characters has a special ability. Let me just show you a few of them. This warrior here can force their opponent to play their combat card before she plays hers. This wall walker can move through a wall for an action. The troll regenerates. After he's wounded, he will come back if nothing's done to stop him. The thief has a key, so she can open those doors all throughout the dungeon, and these doors are initially locked. Now, a player can open those doors with the thief or other things, in which case you'd put this open door next to it to show that the door is open and you'd be able to get through. So the thief has that special ability. This guy here he's a snake, so he can slide through those small keyholes that other people can see through but can't get through. This orc here can rotate the gears in any direction, not just the direction it shows. This guy here can smash all the walls in a room. You put a card next to him to show that all the walls are smashed so people can move through them. This guy's a weenie, but if he escapes off the enemy's end line, he's worth 2 victory points instead of 1. This guy has a ranged attack. This guy here can smash doors open. You'll put a broken door next to him to show that he smashed a door, and from now on anybody can go through that. Wizards can cast spells and teleport over pit traps. She can, when the assassin hits somebody, they're dead. There is no wounded. She just automatically kills them. And this person can play 2 combat cards. And these are just a few of the 25 different characters. But you can also find and pick up items. You can find items that protect you on defense, or scrolls that your wizards can use to attack, or items that help you on offense, or something like a rope which will let you climb over pit traps and get through them, or a key which lets you get in and out of doors. So there's all sorts of different items. There's even cards that give you ranged attack, and so players will be placing these things randomly throughout the dungeon, but the only randomness of the game is the initial setup. After that, everything is pretty much, you just got to figure out how to beat your opponent, getting victory points by killing them and by escaping off the enemy's line. Okay, here's the deal. This is a very impressive card game. Enough to rock my foundations as to, do I still need the board game? Just to rock them. Okay, I'm going to keep the board game because there are some ways in which the board game is better than the card game. The board game, it's easy to look at it visually and tell where everything is. In the card game, you have to look at how the cards are rotated to figure out where they are. Even though I think that is a phenomenally cool mechanic and a great way to use cards on the board. The board game just has a better visual look about the whole thing, and it's fun to move your piece around. As you do move the card around, you're basically saying, I'm moving here, 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 and here, and then put the card in the right spot. Other than that, the games play functionally identical, and in fact, there's a few ways this one is better than the board game. First of all, being able to store your actions, have up to 7. The board game you had different tiles each turn for actions. One turn you have 3 actions, one turn you have 2, one turn you have 4, etc. Here, you know how many actions the opponent has. Well, this works so much better. In fact, I might start using this mechanic in the board game because it just was such a smoother, faster mechanic. This also comes with 25 characters. The first, I believe, Dungeon Twister came with didn't come with that many characters, and each expansion only added 8 or 10 characters. So this one starts with 25. You know what they should do? This is what they should do. They should make Dungeon Twister the Card Game Part 2 with 2 other colors, so you could play a 4-player game if you wanted to, and with 25 different characters, and then you can mix and match it. Maybe that is what they're doing, who knows, but that would be a cool idea. This one is more easily expandable. It doesn't have the visual pop, though. I don't know how many people are going to jump into this game, but if you've never played Dungeon Twister before, you need to give this is a great way to get into the game. This is a good way to give it a try. It is extremely strategic. I cannot tell you how fun this game is. To be able to sit there and try to outthink your opponent. To me, the most fun is when you play with 8 characters, especially when you don't show your opponent what those 8 characters are. And then you're like, these are my 4 starting characters. He sees his 4 starting characters. What items have I scattered throughout there? And the fact that your items can be used by either side. So that sword I put out there, you got it. Well, I used the Wall Walker. Not very good in combat, but can slide through the walls, hopefully get to the opponent's line. There's a lot of neat things. And the rooms rotating, that's a really cool mechanic. There's a lot of games that use rotating things. This is probably the best one that uses that mechanic. I'm kind of in love with this game, and I think that the card game is a strong implementation of the board game. It's easy to set up. It's easy to teach. The tutorials in here are very good. I have a problem with the fact that the game forces you to go through the tutorials. I don't like when rule books do that. I'd prefer that there be, if you want to do tutorials in a rule book, that's fine, but have the full rules somewhere else so that when you're looking back for something, you have to say, was that in tutorial 1 or tutorial 2? I don't like that aspect, but other than that, the artwork is good, everything is good, and it fits in a very small compact. This is one of your best values you will get for a game. Only 2 players, but for those 2 players, a very strong, fun, strategic game, Dungeon Twister, the card game.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!